Well, good morning, Colorado. Today is Friday, February 24th, and this is Brandon from freestatecolorado.com with your weekly roundup. We're going to take a look at some news stories you may have missed and others that you might find interesting. Well, I hope you stayed warm this last couple days. It's been a little chilly, but spring is just around the corner. Let's take a look. All right, CU Independent, CU Boulder's student news from February 16th, 2023. Student government pushes for action on concealed carry at Board of Regents meeting. Now, it's pretty unfortunate. CU Boulder has become a hotbed of liberal activism, as you may not be surprised, but it is pretty unfortunate to see how much teachers, administrators, and students have more interested in political activism than they are in actually learning and teaching things that are valuable for life. In a room of seated university officials, Rachel Hill walks up to the podium at the center of the attention. She urges the CU Board of Regents to ban concealed carry on campus. Members of the University of Colorado Boulder student government stand in the back of the room with their hands clasped. It was a moment, months in the making. Wow, how brave, how stunning, how bold and courageous these CU students are. They're basically asking to be disarmed on campus. It's absolutely insane, especially what the tragedies we've been seeing across our state, across the country, most recently in Michigan, where somebody targeted a college campus. And of course, after that, in spite of all of this, still anti-gun activists at CU Boulder want to make it illegal for concealed carry holders to carry on campus. I mean, come on, people. You got to have some common sense. I guess they don't teach that at CU anymore. If a criminal wants to commit a crime, if a criminal wants to hurt people, they're not going to care if concealed carry is banned on campus. It doesn't going to make a difference. You're not going to save any lives. You're not going to help. You're not going to help your campus out. All you're doing is creating a target of sitting ducks that some insane mad person now has easier capabilities to target. So very, very unfortunate. Don't understand. Well, I do understand, unfortunately, why so many of these college students think that. Of course, they're in bed with all the political anti-gunners, but absolutely, absolutely silly and stupid to think that it's going to save a life. There's from the article. A few months ago, I sent you all a resolution supported by undergraduates, graduate students, staff, and faculty urging you to ban concealed carry across campus, Hill said to Regents during a public comment. But the response that we received did not exemplify courage to me. If it just saves one life, isn't it worth it? How? How is it going to save one life? Somebody who takes the time to get their concealed carry permit, somebody who's a responsible gun owner, that's who you want on campus. That's who's going to protect you if some idiot criminal shows up. So hopefully there's some reason at CU campus, but fortunately it doesn't seem to be so. Let's move on. This article I put out this week really had a lot of fun with this. Democratic Socialists of America has a Denver chapter, so the Denver DSA, as they call themselves, kind of have a new series going that I'm going to be doing over the next while. Colorado's political establishment exposed, looking at some of the outside groups that are supporting candidates for office, pairing them with volunteers, and organized efforts basically to transform our state politics. So I figured Democratic Socialists of America is some organization that a lot of people have heard of, but I don't think enough people know who they are and the inroads they've made in Colorado politics. So for my article, Coloradans might be shocked to discover that an organized socialist group has made serious inroads in Colorado politics. You might think I'm exaggerating, but the truth is worse than you suspect. You may have seen the radical legislation being introduced this year in the state legislature, but you may not know the power and organization this movement has behind them. The reality is this organized socialist group is well funded and their candidates are winning. 3 of their members are currently serving in the Colorado State Legislature, and they have endorsed 7 candidates for the Denver City Council in 2023. This group is called the Denver Democratic Socialists of America, DSA. Now, Denver DSA is a chapter of the National Democratic Socialists of America, the largest socialist organization in the USA. Wow. They have 204 chapters across the country, 4 in Colorado. They claim that they were the largest socialist organization in the United States since the Communist Party before its implosion in 1956, and they currently claim to have 92,000 members and chapters in all 50 states. If you go on their website, it's really illustrative of what's going on in Democratic politics these days. Their blog, talks about the Communist Manifesto, but also election campaign organizing and how their comrades can be better public speakers. So people really need to be aware. People really need to wake up. Colorado needs to be very concerned that there's this radical communist group out here that's against free markets, against private property ownership. They want to nationalize everything, and they are currently in the state legislature. I mean, for a long time, people have said, "Oh, Democrats, they're all socialists, this and that." And yeah, maybe that's true, but these people are avowed socialists. One step away from calling themselves communists. We have three of them in the state legislature: Elizabeth Epps, Javier Marbre, and Lorena Garcia. They're members of the Democratic Socialists of America and are definitely pushing some of the most radical agendas we've seen in Colorado in a long time. So check out my article, go in depth in kind of each of these people, give a little bit of their background, talk about some of the legislation they're pushing, and then also talk about the Denver City Council races, the seven that are endorsed by the Democratic Socialists. And then, really, if you go to their website and look at their demands, it's pretty shocking what these people want. Um, Pretty scary in a way, but I hope it motivates you to get involved politically and try and stand up and speak out because these people are not representative of the majority of Coloradans, but I think they can be held account if people shed some light on what they're doing. Let's move on. Complete Colorado page two. Definitely Complete Colorado's website you should be checking every day. Great news aggregator in the Drudge Report style. Really provides a lot of great information. One of our best resources that we have online as liberty-minded Coloradans. This article is from Mike Rosen, February 20th, 2023. Liberal media bias tanks public trust in journalism. So Mike Rosen says, freedom of the press is an essential mainstay of our republic, specifically cited in the First Amendment, prohibiting Congress from making any law that would abridge it. The press originally referred to the earliest newspapers, magazines, or even pamphleteers. Nowadays, it would fall under the general category of media, including 24/7 cable TV and internet streaming. So there is a big crisis in the media, as Mike Rosen points out. But what was very interesting is this recent Gallup poll that he shares here in his article. Only 7% of Americans have a great deal of trust and confidence in mass media television, radio, and newspaper reporters to convey the news fully, accurately, and fairly. 27% have a fair amount of trust. 28% say they don't have very much trust, and 38% have no trust and confidence. Well, I'm right there with those 38%, and you probably are too. I have no trust and confidence that the mainstream corporate media is going to report accurately and fairly. I mean, even before the Trump era, we've seen a lot of dishonesty. And then, of course, they went into total meltdown once Trump got elected. Mike Rosen continues, the breakdown among partisan groups is especially revealing. 60% of Democrats have a great deal or fair amount of trust in journalists, while 86% of Republicans have not very much or none. 71% of liberal Democrats have a great deal or fair amount of trust, and only 9% of conservative Republicans say that. The conclusion is obvious. Democrats, especially liberals, trust partisan liberal journalists who echo their own bias. I mean, pretty obvious. Um, Interesting. I think the trends in the media and how people are going to respond to how the media reports on political events going forward has changed dramatically since the Trump era. Of course, has been going on a lot longer than Trump, but nonetheless, pretty interesting to see how this is going to change and also provide new opportunities for people who want to get out there and start doing some reporting of their own. I think there's a big market gap there. So check out Mike Rosen's article in Complete Colorado, page two. Some really unfortunate news, but I hate to keep bringing up crime every week, but I think it's really important that we understand what's happening in our state and our communities. We can't hide from it. We got to figure out how to address it. This is from the Gazette.com, February 22nd, 2023. 5 injured in shooting in East Colorado Springs. I mean, 5 injured in a shooting at a convenience store. It's absolutely terrible. 5 people were injured in what police are describing as a planned shootout between two groups in East Colorado Springs Tuesday night, according to the Colorado Springs Police Department. Police believe an incident involving two groups of people began near Palmer Park and North Murray Boulevards about 7 p.m. Police said an initial investigation indicates the shooting was a result of an agreed upon confrontation between two groups. Wow. I mean, you have organized groups, at least semi-organized groups of people, juveniles apparently with firearms out there getting in public shootouts. According to police, 2 adults and 3 juveniles sustained serious but not life-threatening gunshot wounds and were transported to a local hospital. Police said at least one person shot was a bystander and was not involved in the initial confrontation. So, I mean, people got to realize what's happening in our state. I mean, you can't hide from it. It's really unfortunate. Denver, Colorado Springs, a lot of even suburban areas that are kind of don't see crime that often are seeing a lot more of it. So, get involved in your community, try and speak out, and just another reminder why you need your Second Amendment rights, why you need a firearm to protect yourself, because things like this are happening in our state. And unfortunately, the Democratic politicians in Denver, of course, want to disarm us. They think passing some stupid law is going to stop these criminals from engaging in their activity. Totally, totally wrong. Let's move on. Denver7.com, February 23rd, 2023. A growing number of people are moving due to rising costs. So, this is actually a national article talking about the trend that we've seen over the years of people moving in and out. But I thought it was interesting because in Colorado, we're seeing people moving out at a greater rate than they have in the past. Of course, people are going to move based on their pocketbook, based on money. Nowadays, if there's a better paying job and lower tax burden, people are going to go to those places, those communities, those states. So it'll be interesting to see how Colorado shifts, the population shifts as our crime continues to increase, as these onerous regulations force out businesses and job creators. And interesting, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with the population movement. That's one of the more interesting things I think that's happening in recent years. An opinion in the denverpest.com, cap Colorado's property tax increases before we get crushed. So this is a great opinion article from Michael Fields. Michael Fields is one of our best activists here in Colorado, somebody who really is on the front lines to defend our way of life and stand up for the working class. February 21st, 2023. Michael Fields says, both parties in the legislature have said that affordability is their top priority this season. Municipalities have identified inflation and lack of affordable housing as two of their most pressing concerns, and voters consistently identified the affordability crisis as their biggest issue in this most recent election. The goal of our legislature this session should be clear: make life more affordable for everyday Coloradans. The easiest and possibly the most impactful way to do this is for legislators to turn away from the property tax cliff we're about to dive off of in 2024. I won't bury the lead. Residential assessed property values are set to increase by a whopping 26.5% in 2024. This legislative session is the last chance for the legislature to put a fix in place to avoid that hike, barring the governor calling a special session later this year. So, what's Michael Field's solution? A cap on how much the assessed value of a property, and therefore your taxable value, can increase each year. California has a similar cap since they've had it since 1978. Florida and Oregon do as well. But you got to read this article. As Michael Fields points out, property taxes are about to skyrocket in Colorado. It's going to be a rough situation, as we saw with the previous article. People are moving based on higher costs. So we'll see with increased property taxes. Of course, interest rates aren't going down anytime soon. It should be an interesting time for Colorado real estate. Moving on, KOA 5, Southern Colorado affiliate. Some grocery stores will be able to sell wine in 1 week. So, as you may know, this proposition was passed, this initiative last year on the ballot, and now grocery stores, gas stations, other places, many of them will be able to sell wine. So, this article came out on February 22nd. 1 week from today, grocery stores will be able to sell wine in Colorado. The voter approved decision updated the Colorado Beer Code and makes it legal for licensed grocery stores and convenience stores to sell wine. So, of course, this article goes that some of them are worried, some of them are not. Will be interesting to see. I mean, it's definitely a good thing in many ways in terms of the market freeing up and allowing more access for, stores to better serve their communities. But interesting, keep an eye on that. So March 1st, look for wine in grocery stores and certain gas stations. Last article I want to cover this week is from the Gazette as well, from February 22nd. Very unfortunate. This is another reason why you need to pull your kids out of public school if at all possible. Schools across Colorado, including Canyon City, targeted with shooting and bomb threat hoaxes. So this seems to be a nationwide organized effort um, for people doing this. It's shocking and sad that somebody would resort to this, but it's still a reality of what's happening. Canyon City High School joined a long list of schools statewide that were placed on lockdown Wednesday, following a wave of hoax threats and school violence. So schools across the state and apparently have been going on across the country reported that people were calling in and making threats. Um, Look at all these schools. I mean, this is all over. It's absolutely crazy. I say schools in Aspen, Alamosa, Boulder, Brighton, Clear Creek, Durango, Englewood, Estes Park, Glenwood Springs, Gilpin County also received various threats Wednesday. There were lockdowns and shelter-in-place orders following the threats. So very unfortunate. Sad that this is happening. Somebody who made the call to Boulder High School said they had weapons, were prepared to go inside, and then they could hear gunfire in the background of the call. So this is a pretty elaborate. I don't know if you want to call it a prank, but some sort of criminal activity that people are doing to try and upset society. So people, if you can, if at all possible, get your children out of public schools. They're not safe. Public schools are targets, and as we saw with the first article today, they're only becoming more so as anti-gun activists work to keep legal gun owners disarmed on schools and college campuses across our state. Well, at the same time, there's people making violent threats, bomb threats, and doing horrible things across Colorado. So, anyways, I hope you stayed warm, stay frosty, and we'll talk to you next week. Check out freestatecolorado.com for some new articles and interviews coming soon. So, thank you very much and take it easy.